Hey guys, so we're in our Scenic Route series, and I believe we're hitting week 5. And we just decided during this series, we wanted to talk with some couples and talk about being on the Scenic Route together, as families, as, husband and wives. And, I think it'll even be applicable for those of you who are dating and even single. And so I really hope you enjoy this. This is exclusive on YouTube. And if you do, could you do us a favor? Will you share it with your friends, share it on social media? I believe that in the next few minutes, you're going to hear some content that will encourage you, inspire you, and hopefully even strengthen some of your relationships. So I want to introduce you guys to one of our staff pastors, Brian Jones, and his wife, Christy. How long have you guys been married?
13 years, right? 13 and a half.
Don't mess that one up.
14.
I want to make sure. Got it right.
In April. Good job.
14 in April, yeah. I got it.
14 in April. One of the two of you give us maybe an entertaining or funny story about you guys, like being married.
Met at a work conference, but the funny part was how I was dressed at the work conference, and yet you still had eyes on me, right? I was wearing a cowboy hat.
Yep, it was a cowboy-themed conference.
And we were, what do you call it?
Line
Hoedown?
dancing.
Yeah,
We were line dancing.
That's what we were doing. And when we met, and she just, I guess that was how I was doing the boot scoot and boogie. She couldn't, get enough of that. So that's how we met, was line dancing in Orlando.
She loved it.
Well, one of our elders and overseers, Adam Driggers, and his wife, Jamie. How long have you guys been married?
33 years.
33
next month.
years.
Next
Next
month.
month. That's incredible.
We've been together
I'm
33
so
years.
sorry that it feels like 5 years
27.
longer than it should be.
27. She literally just said 33 years in my
We've been
ear.
together in March.
33 years. 27 married.
next month.
She's been my girlfriend for 33 years.
I'm still your girl.
How long did you break up for?
For 5 years.
A couple months here and there.
Can you tell us something funny about your marriage? Something awesome, cool story, funny?
Well, you're the funny one.
No, not right now. I got nothing.
Let's talk about getting
That's a-
dumped on Valentine's Day. That's a good
Oh,
one.
we were thankfully just dating. We were children, obviously. Yeah, we were meeting before school. We were both in high school. He went to one school, I went to another. How convenient. And we were meeting on Dunn Avenue to exchange gifts. Well, I was meeting to exchange gifts. He was meeting, unbeknownst to me, to break my heart into 4 million pieces.
It was a test, guys. It was a test.
okay.
What better
Anyway,
way
I
to
gave
test
the
your future
gifts.
wife than to break up with her on Valentine's Day and see if she's still standing, right? Yeah, so it was a test,
Uh-huh.
right?
I feel like you should write a book on that
She
one.
passed.
Yeah, I passed.
Passed.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Passed by your house and did some drive-bys. And, yeah.
She stopped.
So would you advise single fellas when they start dating and find someone that they actually really like, would you advise them to dump them on Valentine's Day, Jamie?
I would strongly advise against that.
Okay,
actually.
good. Just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Talk to me off camera, like
Yeah.
later on.
Pastor Randy and Gina Scalise. All right, man. How long you guys been married?
Yeah, I've been married 21 years.
Yes.
At the end of this year will be 22. So.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think this would be a good story to share. Tell us how you guys met.
My first husband worked at a church, and we left. Him and his wife came to that church as the youth pastors. And my husband passed away, and his wife passed away. And God brought me back from Maine to Florida, and I went to the same church he was at, where he was working as a youth pastor. And we avoided each other, but then all of a sudden we started kind of hanging out, becoming friends, and so that's how we met.
Well, I think too, second marriage for us,
Yes.
but both had a spouse pass away, so we were still grieving.
Yeah.
We were still trying to work that out and figure that out. And she showed up, and it was the obvious thing, young youth pastor, two widows. And so we stayed away from each other. But I
Yeah.
remember going to you were working at church one day, and I asked you, how were you making it through
Yeah.
the holidays? And that's when we started talking and chatting a little bit more. And
Yeah, and then a couple of teenagers decided they'd throw us together. So we were kind of hanging out at people's house after Sunday service and became friends. And then the youth group kind of just hey, wouldn't this be cute? And yeah.
Yeah. We were working on it.
Yeah, we were working on it, but we almost broke up. So, because
Valentine's Day?
no, not on Valentine's Day. He had asked me to go to Tennessee with him to meet his parents, and what I didn't know is that somebody had told him, "You have a big decision to make, and you need to fast about this decision." And so he was fasting and praying, and I didn't know this, but I just knew that he was not nice. I'm like, I do not like that he was angry. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on until a wise woman, Miss Terry Drigger, said, he's fasting and praying about something. He's gonna ask you to marry him in Tennessee. I know it.
Well, I took it serious, and I knew that as a youth pastor, I mean, you don't date people in the church, because if I had a job and if we broke up, who's leaving? Not me. I couldn't keep my job. So I wanted to know if I needed to carry this further. So I wanted to know from God, is she the right one? And God was not talking for most of those days. And it was aggravating.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating. And so I was being quiet. And
Yeah, but like I said, Miss Terry Drigger said, no, you got to go to Tennessee because something's going to happen there. I said, no, it's not. And that's what happened
You guys got engaged?
in Tennessee.
So out of all that story, I take away, make sure Terry doesn't know what's going on. 'Cause she will.
well, we were actually going to go ahead and get married.
We were gonna elope.
And just come back and then go to the
Vegas?
Justice of the Peace and do something like that. And most of our sponsors, our leaders, especially
Terry.
said that we could not do that to them. And so they put the wedding together.
Yeah.
They wanted the wedding together. Did they chip in at all? Like,
Yes,
okay, I was
actually
about
they
to say,
did.
because,
Oh, yeah.
I know
Yeah.
you guys didn't have like Venmo or anything.
Yeah,
back
no.
then.
I was a
They
youth
did.
pastor, man. I told
Yeah.
him in there, I said, you can't take the youth room apart because we'll have to take that up, put it down and all that. And Terry was like, we're taking it apart. And so the whole fellowship hall got changed. But it was really great because the youth group, the church, really it was our family that got us
Yeah.
through. So they got to
Yeah.
be there. We got
I have a
great
lot of
pictures
great
of that.
pictures of the whole youth group up on stage with us. And so it's just,
Young ones like
Yeah.
Pastor Jason Masters.
Brandon Forte. Yeah.
So Tiffany, how about you tell the people how we met?
Well, we met at church. We were going to the same church, and I was working part-time. You were coming back and forth from college, and we met each other through acquaintances there.
To your family members, right?
Yep, family
Ah.
members who wanted to play matchmaker.
Yeah, I was into it. Were you?
I am now.
So, moral of the story, guys, don't give up. Right? Relentlessly pursue. Just make sure you do it within. Make sure it's legal. And so,
How long you been married?
well, how long have we been married? 9 years almost.
9 years in November.
Yep, 9 years in November.
Mhm.
Together for how long? 11?
11.
11 years, right?
And you
guys
guys
also
also
in
broke
November.
up, right?
Yes, we did. We did break up for a little while. We both
Which
had
was-
some things to work through.
Which was really, really good for us.
It
But we
was.
also, we kind of rushed it too. Like, I am very driven. So like, if I feel like I know something, like I go after it. And she was about that at first. But, there's a lot going on moving back from college. Her mother had recently passed away. So, I mean, there's a lot of change in her life, and she was really close with her mother. And so you encounter each other in a season of grieving and transition as well. So, but we made it through that, and it was awesome. And that's one thing I would definitely say to people is, if you really believe you're supposed to be with somebody, then you don't tap out. Like, you just you swim through the mud. You fight an uphill battle if you have to. If you really believe, and I would tell ladies this: if a guy's not willing to do that, then he's not worth the time.
Yeah. Because you also have to give each other that space, like there are different stages of grieving, and you don't know what that looks like until you walk through it. I'm sure you guys know that better than anybody. But for me, in that season, in the same year of losing my mom, buying my first home, starting my career, a lot of good changes, but change when it happens so quickly, you don't have time to process. And so then a relationship that I knew God had been very strategic in, because at that point it had been 2 years that we knew each other. And we did rush into it. And then I had to kind of take a step back and realize there were a lot of things that I hadn't personally worked through, and I didn't want to take that into the marriage, because I had to do the things that God was walking me through and healing me from. And that really wouldn't have been fair to bring him along for that, So.
Yeah. What about you guys? What was special about your wedding?
We decided to mix it up because we'd been married before, had the big marriage, the big first time deal. And so I wasn't as, big. I mean, wanting to get all dressed up and do it again. I wanted it to be different. So we got married on a Friday night, and we flipped the stage so that the preacher was to the crowd, and me and Gina got to stand there and look at everybody while we were doing that. And we had the best man, maid of honor, my son, our son now, in the wedding. And so I just figured, man, I wanted it to be different than what our first one was. And so
I think the special part for me was that my in-laws from my first marriage and his in-laws from his first were there.
That's so
And
cool to have them there to support you guys.
it was, and we really wanted the moms to be a part. So we made sure that each mom got a rose. My mom, his mom, and Rob's mom, and Rhonda's mom too. So we wanted them to know that we were coming together as a family, and that we weren't forgetting, the ones that we had been married to.
It's so cool to see like God just redeem all that and work it together.
And what about crayons?
Oh, so we're dating, and he has a son. So our dates became, around
three of us.
2 or 3 year old. There was three always. He was always with us. We were never alone, and so we would color, and we would. And so when he proposed to me, he didn't propose with the ring. He came and he brought a box of crayons, and he said, "Will you color the rest of your life with me?"
Tiffany looked at me, and I was like, "What's going on? What are you thinking about?" And you know how you could tell when someone's thinking. And
Hold on, let me just interject and say we were a month in to dating.
Yeah, we were probably 5 weeks in, to be exact.
Okay.
And so we were 5 weeks into dating, and she was like, I was like, what are you thinking about like right now? And she was like, I just want to know how serious this is. And she didn't know, but I went the day before and went and got a ring and went to Jared's, and it was in the trunk of my car. And so we were eating calzones. We were eating calzones, right? Hanging out.
I like it.
Yep. I was like, I'll show you how serious I am. And I walked to the car in some sweatpants and some slides and like a sleeveless t-shirt, and came back in and was like, this is how serious I am. And she was like, what? And all of a sudden we heard her garage door start going up. Her roommate had came home. And you would have thought we were doing something inappropriate, because we were like, oh God, what do we do? Like, what do we do? And she was like, I don't know. It's like, well, we got to go upstairs really quick, right? So I run upstairs, and she was like, well, you haven't even actually asked me yet. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I had to do the whole thing. And I just thought that was like crazy romantic and a little Italian as well.
There you go.
With the calzones.
There you go.
Totally.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
It was well planned out for sure. Definitely.
It wasn't at all planned out.
Here's a cool question with this series, the Scenic Route, just being more intentional, going slower. Remember, that's what it's about. What do you think the Scenic Route looks like in a marriage?
My first thoughts are the Scenic Route is slowing down to get the other person's perspective, because there's a lot of times, man, I'm driven. We pastored a church for 15 years. And man, there's a way I want things done. I wanted to do this and go there, and slowing down to remember that somebody else has a different thought, viewpoint, opinion, look, because there's a lot of things I don't like to take care of. I'm like not a big grocery store person, and there's a lot of things. And to remember that somebody else is seeing things differently, operating differently. That's, to me, slowing down is to make sure I'm not just telling her how to do things or how I want them done, but to see how she processes it.
And there's an element to when you're looking at a different perspective, especially the perspective of your spouse, trying to understand it too. Because I know one of the greatest pieces of advice we got in our premarital counseling was you're going to have disagreements. You're going to see things differently. You're two very imperfect people coming together. So when those disagreements happen, when those arguments happen, fight to understand, don't fight to win, keeping in mind that like the ultimate goal for either one of us is not to walk away feeling like the victor, but to walk away having an understanding of where they are and why they responded the way they did in a certain situation, and kind of take an inventory of what other elements play into that scenario, what the day looks like and kids and all of those things factor in.
When we started our relationship, our marriage, we weren't seeking God. We were definitely off the scenic route and doing things poorly on our own. A lot of our own issues came into the marriage, so it took a lot of time. Well, it took Jesus saving us. And once we put that order in perspective, it's been amazing. And each year we go closer and closer as we go closer to God, taking time out for each other. He's huge on dating. We date often. He makes sure that's on the calendar.
Yeah, so when I think of practically the scenic route, like it's to slow down. It's to make memories. Like that's what we do on the, like I've definitely related to this series because I hate driving on the interstate. So anywhere we go that's a drive, I want to go the scenic route just because it slows down and you get to take everything in. So practically with our marriage, we want to make memories, so I'm big on like whether it's Christmas, anniversary, birthdays, like not doing the whole present thing. We still do, but we're gonna do a trip. We're gonna make memories. So we are going to California next March and April, Pastor. So that time off has already been submitted. The Colorado trip this year that we went on, he approved it. So the Colorado trip we went on was like huge for us because I was like, we can't just do the 1 day here, 2 day here vacations like we do because it doesn't help. You just get right back onto the interstate again. So for us to have that week away, I was like, we got to do that every year, even if it means cutting out the other vacations, but to set aside that time and be intentional about it. So if I'm planning the scenic route, I better know where I'm going and where to stop on the way. Like we plan the different stops because it's a lot easier to take the interstate. You're just going this way. Scenic route, you're like, what? Okay, we got to see the big ball of yarn here, and we got to do this here. And so it's being very intentional about what we're stopping to take a look at.
I think about the scenic route being, in regards to our marriage, like marriage isn't something to be endured, it's to be enjoyed. And I think a lot of times we get so busy, we're just enduring in our marriage. And I think we've even been guilty of that. But man, like just slowing down enough to laugh and enjoy. And in fact, we did it this past week too. Like we decided, we just left and decided to sit in the car for 8 hours and drive around things. But we were able to talk and get out and do stuff with our kids. Marriage should be like that too, like intentionally slowing down enough to enjoy each other. And if you got kids too, part of that is learning to find someone awesome to hang out with your kids so that you can get your spouse's undivided attention and give yours as well. That's been extremely beneficial in our marriage, especially someone with smaller kids, because they're like leeches, they're just all over you all the time. And I love them. But I love a break from my kids sometimes too. Amen. And, but man, like if you're going to be married, you're going to be married for the long haul, you should at least enjoy it. Like enjoy each other.
Yeah, you mentioned that about the kids. That was one thing that was big for us because my parents stayed married, 30 plus years until my dad passed away, but they didn't date each other. Their world revolved around us. And so when we left for college, my sister and I were gone. They didn't have a marriage. So for us, that's been big. I don't want my boys to see that. They're going to know how much we love them, but they're going to know how much mommy and daddy prioritize their marriage.
That's good.
And hopefully they'll have that type of marriage as well.
I would say, as far as the scenic route is stopping to say, why do I like him? and remembering why,
It's a long list. Super long list right there.
I mean, I won't disagree. And when you do that, you know, and you realize all the great things, and then also kind of going back a little bit about, you know, enjoying the fact that you have someone to spend your life with. And there are people who are searching and looking and seeking, and to stop and say, wow, you know, what a treasure I have, and to be grateful for that, and to stop and to, even when things, you know, when you're aggravated with different things, but to stop and say, wow, you know, how fortunate and blessed am I to have someone that gets me and loves me, and, you know, and to be with all these years, and to still, he's still my boyfriend, you know what I mean? And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that. And I will never take that for granted.
I think you're missing out on a lot if you don't fight to enjoy your marriage.
Exactly.
You know, and you can get distracted really easily in your marriage. We've seen that. And so slowing
We've been guilty
down
of that.
for sure. And so slowing down and doing some things that we both enjoy together. Yeah, this past week she took some pictures because we got baby number 4 on the way. But our kids were laughing at us. They laugh anytime they see us kiss, and they start singing that song. What's the song? The
KISSING. I mean, they butcher the song. It's
Yeah.
completely wrong, but especially Maylee.
and
But it's awesome.
like, and the ooh and like stuff like that. But they watched me twirl her and spin her in the middle of a dirt road, and she loved it. I was like, man, I hope nobody's watching. This is kind of embarrassing. But the kids were like,
living my best life.
yeah, and the kids were like laughing and stuff like that. I know one thing that we started doing this year that helps us enjoy marriage is we just put something on the calendar. And I think if you're going to enjoy it, you got to be intentional with it. And so we, every 7 days, do a date night. So Friday night is our date night. And sometimes we have picked up food and ate it in the car in a parking lot. We went to the beach. We did all kind of stuff like that. And then every 7 weeks, we try to get a night or 2 away from our kids. Could be at home. It could be using some Marriott points. Amen. Thank God for those, right? Whatever it is. I mean, we've went just to the other side of town and hung out, you know, like at Jack's Beach. And we'll go do dinner with like you guys. And then we'll hang out and like we'll take time with each other. But then we'll also take some time alone on that. It's been good. And then every 7 months, we try to do like a trip, like which we did, which is where the series comes from, where we go we went to Colorado, but we had somebody hang out with us so that they could hang out with the kids so that we could go on a date. And so we had like a date day, and it was awesome. And I do realize that not everybody has the ability to do that right now, but if you plan right, you can do it.
Yeah, I think there's a level of preparedness on the front end so that you can do those things. There are always going to be things that could potentially keep you from doing it. There are always going to be things that come up. There are always going to be people who need you, whether it's your kids or work or a friend or family, the church, whatever that looks like. But if you can prepare on the front end, which, I mean, prepare financially, prepare for your kids, prepare for, you know, your workload, and, you know, like you mentioned, California, and taking off months in advance, because, you know, if you plan and you prepare, it's more likely to happen. But I'm very much a scheduled person, and he's not as much. But when it comes to those things, this year we just said, we're going to commit to this, because going back to what Christy was saying, like, I want our kids to see us enjoy each other. I mean, and I also want our kids to know that marriage isn't perfect. I also want them to see us have healthy disagreements and those kinds of things so we can talk through that. But I also want them to know that we value our marriage, and sometimes that means getting away for just mommy and daddy.
Yeah, and I think the planning part, the intentionality, at least my observation, has made her feel valued. Like, oh, this is important. Because like if you want to get stronger, like you plan to go to the gym. you know,
And you actually go.
and you actually go, right? You wanna eat better, you meal prep and you plan, right? You wanna get smarter, you plan to be educated, you know.
Study.
You study, you get intentional that way. How come we stop planning when we get married so often? I mean, I've been guilty of it. I mean, Adam's challenged me in this, but as well as, you know, mentors like Ron Luce and stuff, because the last thing I wanted to be was like be a pastor that is pretty good at pastoring, but a terrible husband at home. You know, and we've all been so guilty of it, especially me. A lot of lead pastors are like, we cheat on our wives all the time with the church, you know? Like, I mean, our first couple years of ministry, I wouldn't even be taking her out on a date. She'd be at home with a newborn or a 1 or 2 year old, but yet I'd be meeting people from the church at Starbucks at 9 p.m. I'd be dating them, trying to fix their world while destroying mine and not even realize it. And so one of the things that the scenic route screams to me is being intentional with your spouse and your kids, because you need to go slow. You need to hear them. You need to see things together. You need to enjoy it. I don't want my kids to turn 18 and be like, oh, thank God they're gone.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't want to be 10 years into a marriage and be like, oh, it's our anniversary. Like I want to be excited and celebrate what we have.
Well, it's something that can take you down, because 15 years in Atlanta, and I watched everybody else that I admired succeeding and didn't feel like I was. So I worked harder, I worked longer, I stayed later, and I pretty much abused the privilege that she knew I was driven and I wanted to be successful. But the cheating, I never saw it like that until, you know, she was like, well, I'm out of here. You know, I'm done. I'm not, if this is the way ministry is going to be. And I had to reevaluate, and I had to, Christy said, prioritize. I had to look at what I think scripture says, what good does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? I thought, what good does it to have a great ministry and lose your marriage? And that be the example. And so I had to pull back from that, reevaluate, and learn how to come home and be home. Because there was a lot of times I came home and I wasn't home.
Yeah.
I wasn't in another room studying. I was just thinking of other things or frustrated. And so the scenic route really, especially before we came to Bold City, was realizing that this was the priority.
But I will say, I mean, halfway through up there in Atlanta, things started, you know, evening out. And I would tell him, hey, I love you, but you're kind of being a workaholic again, and we need to talk about that. So I need you home at 5 tonight, you know. And he would listen, you know, like I understood he was driven. He, you know, grew up in a business household. He has uncles that are, you know, executives. I understood that. But he also would say, okay, you know what? I need to come home tonight because my wife wants me there. Or we need to do this. And we are a family who likes to laugh. We like to have fun. We like to, you know, dance in the kitchen. I mean, that's who we are. So, and he loves humor as well. So we learned how to navigate it, and he was pretty good about it. But yes, the ministry can, if you're not careful.
I think too, you know, obviously everyone in the circle is heavily involved in ministry, but man, like people that aren't need to also realize, like, you know, you can like men, you can get a side chick that is your business, your hobby, your hunting stand, you know, your sports team. You know, if you go to 8 home games a year, but you don't take your wife on 8 dates a year, that's rough. That's rough. I mean, that you're really putting something above her. And I know that that's not stuff that people really like to hear. You know, if you're more faithful to the gym than you are to dating your wife, that's scary too. I mean, I know that's one thing you've always talked to me about, Adam, is just making sure you continue to date and stuff like that. Is there anything you'd want to share into that?
Yeah, so I mean, we learned, or I learned early on in our marriage from a pastor. He preached a message, and the tagline was "Win her today," and that resonated with me somehow. And, he kind of put it like, however you tricked her in the first place, just continue to do that, whatever it was, You just, yeah, you just continue.
Genius.
I don't know if y'all listen or not, but there was a lot of testing happening in these discussions that I noticed, but I let it go. But so what I did was I was intentional in the sense we're not calendar people, like we don't live that way. But that resonated so much with me that was a note that I made. I had it in my phone and I had it in different places. And I just reminded myself to win her. And that sort of like, it was phone calls or text messages or touches that didn't have anything beyond the touch. It was just passing in a touch. And I love you. A look in a room that she wasn't expecting. Now with phones, it turns into things like a picture that she didn't know I took that I sent to her later to let her know that I saw her. That kind of stuff. So I just continually try to win her affection. I want to make sure if she gets a compliment in the workplace or in the store or whatever, it's not the first compliment she's heard today. You know what I'm saying? It's, that's the kind of things that I do too. And I guess that could equate to a scenic route in our life where I just continually try and win her. That's why we really do still date girlfriend, boyfriend, because we really do. And the thing is, she responds to those things, right? She responds to that continued pursuit. And so it really is like that we're still in an early, I know it sounds crazy, 27 years of marriage and together for 33, but we really do, I feel like we're still in that early stage. That's kind of how our marriage feels. Do you?
Being intentional too, like for instance, he used to like surf and all that, but never really liked to just go to the beach. Well, I like it. It makes me happy. It's just it's a happy place for me. And we would start taking, it's like the slow down thing. We would take our chairs, get us a little umbrella so that the diva wouldn't be in the sun too much. And,
For clarification, who's the diva?
I mean, we got to protect this.
Oh wait, you don't like the heat, but you do still go.
Yes,
He
I
goes. That's what I'm saying. So,
So
it's
my
like
idea
slow
going
it
to the
down.
beach is get a room on the beach and watch her from the balcony. Like, you look good down there,
I mean,
right? Like that's where those
good
text
too.
pictures would come in. Be like, I see you.
But it really does come into the perspective. You guys were talking about making sure that there's another perspective, and that's kind of how I approach that. But it is like for a lot of years, she followed me around the country to powerlifting meets and did that stuff. So she lived a portion of her life where she made sure she was following my perspective.
Yeah, because I love the power lifter. I didn't love powerlifting.
But so there was give and take in our relationship through the years.
Yeah.
But we did that. We didn't really ever have like people to come up. We only had 2 kids, but we didn't really ever take people along with us. But our kids, they did see us love each other. And we were intentional of letting them know that, hey, one day you're going to be gone and it's going to be me and her sitting here. Yeah. And so we need to know how to enjoy each other. Yeah. And so we worked on that, whether it was without them or whether they were present or not, we worked on making sure that we would be friends when they were gone, when it would really matter if we were friends or not, Yeah. And so, now we have one gone. We still have one that lives with us, but you know how that is. We don't see him very much, but we very much are friends and live as friends and have fun together and laugh together, and we do all that. And I know it kind of sounds corny, but we really that's our life now.
Yeah.
And see, one thing that I feel like I'm similar to you guys with is the lack of planning. Like I'm a semi planner because I kind of have to be, but like we'll go somewhere and she just needs to know an outline. She doesn't need to know all the details. So it permits me to be like impulsive in between the outline. And it's kind of enjoyable.
Yeah, I prefer that because I'm not the one. I don't want to book the flights. I don't want to get the rental car. I don't want to book the hotel. I don't necessarily care about that kind of stuff. Like, he does enjoy that. And so for
Maybe it's a
us-
control thing. I
I
don't
didn't
know.
say that, but you did, so we'll roll with it. But I just like to know, okay, this is where we're going. But then when we get there, I don't mind kind of just flying by the seat of our pants, or, you know, saying, hey, let's go do this. Let's go look at this football stadium, because that's something he enjoys. I'm good with that. But I do enjoy knowing that, okay, it's happening.
Something's
You know,
happening.
But and I think both of you, Adam, and I think maybe Christy or Pastor Brian touched on it too, as far as the kids. And when Jason was saying that even those in the secular, you know, not who aren't working in full-time ministry vocationally, but they can have affairs essentially with their jobs, with, you know, the gym and those kinds of things. I think one of the things that I learned, probably not until Liam, honestly, as moms and wives, sometimes we can put our children above our marriage, and we can almost kind of idolize our relationship with our kids, because we do want to be so intentional, and we have different reasons for me not having my mom any longer, but knowing how vital that relationship was to me. I want to make sure that my girls have that and my son has that. And so when it comes to an idea of leaving them with someone else to go on a date, you almost feel like that mom guilt, you know, that, well, they're my responsibility, they're my kids. They get upset when we leave, which makes it even worse, and you feel terrible. But you also have to remind yourself, like, it's necessary, because I'm going to be better for them, and I'm going to be a better wife and a better mother, a better friend, because, and especially in the world of social media, like, it's so easy to get caught on that comparison wheel and to see what all these other moms are doing and start to almost kind of feel less than, because maybe you're not doing those things. And you have to also keep in mind, like, if this isn't good, then the relationship with my kids isn't going to be good. And so not falling into that trap of feeling guilty about setting aside that time and prioritizing that time, even when they don't understand.